Alright, for 6.1, the first body system you need to know is the digestive system, and the title of the chapter is Digestion and Absorption. Alright, the big idea in learning different body systems is structure and function. So look at the anatomy, the structure, and discuss the different processes or the functions in the organs or in the whole body system. So for the digestive system, when we it doesn't really talk much about anatomy. So let's briefly look at the different organs, that are part of the digestive system. For the test, what you need to know is to draw the basic structure and also annotate your drawing. So draw, label, and annotate. Let's start from the beginning. So you have your mouth. Of course, what happens in the mouth is mechanical and chemical digestion. So chewing breaks your food, and you're also producing saliva. So you're starting to break down starch into disaccharides. Then your food is passed on to your esophagus. It's a 7-inch tube, and food passes through your esophagus through peristalsis. Then food will go into your stomach. By this time you call it chyme, C-H-Y-M-E. And here in the stomach you have also mechanical and chemical digestion. The stomach also undergoes peristalsis. So it churns your food, breaks it apart, and it also produces gastric juices to start digesting your protein. Then the food enters this part of your small intestine, a fancy name called jejunum. But before that, we need to know that the liver makes bile. It's stored here in the gallbladder, and when needed, it releases it here in the jejunum. At the same time, right behind the stomach, you have this yellow leaf-like organ, the pancreas. The pancreas will be discussed more in detail, but the pancreas produces most of your digestive juices. It also secretes it here in the jejunum. Alright, so food proceeds to your small intestine here, and this small intestine is the longest part of your digestive tract. The structure is so because you need a longer surface area to absorb all the nutrients in your food. So after that, the digested food, or by this time called the bolus, goes into your, or this was, sorry, food, bolus, chyme, and then your digested food. So it proceeds to your large intestine. So you can see your large intestine here. It looks like a really nice framework in your abdomen. Sorry, and the forms of framework around your abdomen. So you have the ascending, transverse, and the descending colon. And you have your mineral and vitamin absorption, also water absorption. And then your rectum, where you store your undigested food or feces until such time you're ready to release it through your anus. So again, this one whole tract actually is all in, it's all one long tube when you were still an embryo, until it developed and expanded in different parts, or it had these convolutions here in the small intestine, but it's actually one long hollow tube, from the mouth to the esophagus to the stomach to the small intestine to your large intestine, rectum, and then out through your anus. So the structure that you need to look at, I'm so sorry. The structure that you need to look at here in detail are your small intestine and your pancreas, and the function FXN, or the physiology that you need to know here is peristalsis. So let me start by talking about peristalsis first. Okay, so what is peristalsis? Let me show you a diagram. So you need to know here your two muscles in charge of producing that peristaltic movement or peristaltic wave. You have your circular muscle, and your longitudinal muscle. So your circular muscle, if that's the tube, so imagine my hands, those are the circular muscles, and your longitudinal muscles are on top, so it's lengthwise, circular, round, around the diameter of the intestine. So you have here the circular muscle contracting, so it's squeezing down food, while your longitudinal muscle is relaxed. Once it's squeezed out the food, the longitudinal muscle will contract to further move the food down the tube. So squeeze, move it down, squeeze, move it down. You have it, you can see it here. So it's squeezed and it's moved down. So it's squeezed by your circular muscle and it's moved down, further down by your longitudinal muscle. So you can observe peristalsis in your esophagus as it pushes down your food. It's also in your stomach as it moves, wave-like contraction, movement of your food into your small intestine. Obviously, your small intestine will have peristalsis, and also the large intestine. So remember the movement longitudinal. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled that right. So circular and longitudinal muscles, when they contract, they're responsible for the movement of your food down your gastrointestinal tract. And please remember that the movement is one way. So it starts from the mouth, it's pushed down all the way to your anus. It never goes back up. Okay, so the anatomy that you need to know here is the structure of your small intestine and your pancreas. Since the title of the topic is digestion and absorption, a good amount of material is needed to discuss what absorption is. And absorption happens in your small intestine. So that's why we need to know the structure of your small intestine in detail. So as you can see, I have a very beautiful drawing of a villi. Actually, it's not beautiful. And you need to know how to draw it. And you need to discuss why the inside of the intestine looks like it's lined by a lot of finger-like projections. So let's look at a cross section of your small intestines. This is your small intestine. I'm going to cut it and we're going to look at it from the top view. Okay, so we're looking at it from the top. As you can see, it's not empty, it's not hollow. You can barely see any space here. And the innermost lining of your small intestine has these convolutions or finger-like projections. Each of this is called a villi. So you have several villi, villus. I forgot which one is singular and plural. Let's see, villi. Villi, I think, is alumni. Plural, villi. Villus is singular. So you have villus and then your villi. All right. Now you have to know how this looks like in detail. Okay, as you can see, inside your villus, you have this rich supply of blood vessels or your capillaries, and you also have your lacteal. This is because you will absorb, after you absorb your food, it needs to go into your blood circulation. So embedded in those villus, within those villus are blood circulation or blood capillaries. Let's go back to the top view. All right. So your villi, you need to know the different layers of the structure of your intestine from inside to outside. So the different tissue layers here are your mucosa, submucosa, your muscularis, and your serosa. Let's see. So from here to here, so all of those villi is your mucosa layer or mucous coat. You call it mucosa because the cells of your villi are also able to produce mucose. Underneath your mucosa, from here to here, is your submucosa. Sub means under. So under your mucosa, your submucosa. And then you have two groups of muscles that are responsible for peristalsis, which we just learned. Your circular muscle and your longitudinal muscle. Okay, So that's your muscular layer. And then your outermost layer, your serosa. All right. So from inside to outside again, mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, or your circular and longitudinal muscle, and your serosa. So this is the structure of your small intestine. Now, the question is, what are the physiological processes that happens here in the small intestine? Before I list it down for you, please imagine that your food is passing through here, this empty space, and it needs to go where? To your blood circulation. So these broken down parts of your food needs to pass through the membrane of the cells of the villus and into your blood circulation. Let's look at the other picture earlier. So the food here inside your small intestine needs, after digestion, it will pass through your villus, or the cells of your villus, the epithelial cells of the villus, and into your blood circulation. Now let's learn this in detail. So two of the nutrients that you need to know is the absorption of starch, the absorption of glucose, and the absorption of triglycerides. So these are the cells of your villi. Imagine this is the lumen, or the inside of your small intestine, where digested food needs to move from that area to this area. What do we have here? Capillaries and lacteal. So just think, all of the nutrients need to go into your capillaries. The only thing that will go here into your lacteal is your triglycerides, your fats, your cholesterol. So your cholesterol and fatty molecules is being circulated through the lacteal, and this is part of the lymphatic system. The rest of the nutrients will go into your blood capillaries. So let's discuss triglycerides first. So triglycerides obviously are macromolecules. They're really big. They cannot easily diffuse into your epithelial cells. So this needs to be digested into its components, such as your monoglyceride and your fatty acids. So it's broken down into your glycerol and fatty acids. Now these are small enough to move through your epithelial cells through the process of diffusion. So once it diffuses inside the epithelial cell of the villi, it will aggregate and reform into your triglyceride. At the same time, cholesterol is added here. So triglyceride plus cholesterol, and they will be surrounded by a protein coat. Okay, then that structure is now called your lipoprotein. And through the process of exocytosis, it will be released into your lacteal. So exocytosis here into the lacteal, here diffusion. Two processes for absorption of triglycerides: diffusion and exocytosis. Okay, now you also need to know the process of absorption of glucose. How does glucose from your food get into your blood circulation? All right, so your polysaccharides, after you break it down completely, you have your monomers glucose. Now, glucose can't easily pass through the membrane, so two things needs to happen. First, imagine that you have a pump here, a protein pump, and that pump is your sodium-potassium pump. So that sodium-potassium pump is an active pump. It's an active transport that pumps 3 sodium out for every 2 potassium in. So that pump is responsible in establishing a concentration gradient because it keeps pumping more positive ions out than positive ions in. So after that concentration gradient is established, another protein called the sodium glucose cotransporter will passively move sodium, that excess sodium, back into the cell. At the same time, glucose moves along with sodium to get inside the cell.